Hey guys and ladies, welcome to another video. Today, it is my absolute pleasure and honor to bring another Areej Le Dore review because it is Areej Le Dore week on Channel Ram. And I must say that it is a true pleasure to get to do these. Every drop of Areej fragrance that I get to wear is a celebration for me. It's a moment of pure joy because I know how limited the fragrances are, and I know how lucky I am to have the juice that I have and get to wear and experience. And I actually wore this to work today as my scent of the day. I'm wearing it today. Oh God, I'm gonna do a fresh spray. But first, I want to recap Areej Le Dore week and what we've done so far. And I don't know how you guys feel about something like this, where I basically take a whole week and do reviews of a brand. But I've enjoyed this. This has been a little out of my normal way of doing things, because normally what I'll do, maybe a little OCD thrown in here, but I will wear a niche fragrance that I like, I'll wear a vintage fragrance that I like, and then sometimes I'll wear something new. Or, then I'll go back and pick a niche fragrance or a designer, then a vintage, and I try to kind of mix up my collection so I don't always wear the same fragrances types back to back to back. But a full week of Areej Le Dore and getting videos and out that I have not reviewed yet before. These are all new reviews for me. So it's been a real pleasure. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I know the lists sort of get the most views as far as clicks and views and stuff like that. The Perfumers portfolio videos, this is not a top 10 where we focus on an individual note, and then going back and ranking those videos. Those are the ones that I think really gets the views if I'm really going off of views. But I think these type of individual reviews are sort of a lost art, and I really want to do it for the community and for an Areej, especially a long lost Areej like this particular one that was one of the original batch of 2017 releases. I'm not reviewing it because you can go out to the store and go buy a bottle, because you can't. I can't. I would if I could, but I can't. I think this was originally $300 for 50 mil, if I'm not mistaken, which I would go pay that right now with a smile if I could. But the reason I'm doing it is to sort of get everyone more accustomed to the brand. You can get to know their style, and for posterity purposes. I mean, maybe down the road, someone, 5 or 10 years from now will be looking for a bottle like this, and maybe it'll be at an auction somewhere and they'll want to learn more about it. But I think mostly it's about the brand and getting to know the brand and the style and understanding it. And so today, well, first let's recap Areej week, because we started out with Ocularia Blossom. I reviewed Ocularia Blossom, which came out last year, and there's still some pretty good prices on Ocularia Blossom floating around it in the secondary market if you're interested. And then Russian Adam came in on a live stream with us. We talked about his new collection, The History of Oud, which I am absolutely in love with. That is like a mountaintop experience for my Oud collection. Absolutely love every single one of those that I've smelled and worn, and even to this day I can't truly figure out which one's my favorite. I go back and forth and back and forth. But he was very generous with his time. We chatted for a couple hours. It went like that. But he'll be back on soon because Feel Oud, his collaboration with Dmitry Bortnikov, is going to be releasing 3 new fragrances soon. I've read the blurbs. I know the names. I absolutely cannot wait to get to experience those. But as always, no freebies even for me. I will be buying them with my own money if I decide to get a full bottle. And then we reviewed Siberian Summer, which I think is extremely underrated. One of the best synthetic musk fragrances I think I've ever smelled. You could fool me into thinking it's natural musk. Plumeria d'Oris, which I had a couple drops, thanks very kindly to my good friend Glitch. And then we did the History of Indian Oud. I did a full review on the History of Indian Oud, which, man, some people say once you get into stuff, that sort of animalic oud, it's hard to go back. It's actually hard to go back to stuff like this. That's more wearable. But luckily, I'm fortunate because I can still enjoy stuff that isn't just pure animalic barnyard, But the History of Indian Oud highlights that. I mean, that is a definition fragrance of what a barnyard oud should be like. And then yesterday we did Ottoman Empire, the original Ottoman Empire. Very first time I reviewed the original on the channel. I did review Ottoman Empire 2 about a year ago or so. And but the first time I reviewed Ottoman Empire yesterday on the channel. And so today we're doing another very special fragrance early on in the collection, and this is Oud Zen. And you know what? I did a spray a couple hours ago. I'm going to do another spray because I absolutely, I want to show you the little, look at that. Look at that on my skin. I mean, fuck, man. And I wish you guys could all smell this. As an oud lover, it's heaven. It's bliss. I can't hide the way I really feel about it. And I absolutely wish I could find a bottle of this. This is on the full bottle list for sure. Right up there with Oud Luwak, Malik Al Taif, Koh Noir. There's so many Areejes from the past I wish I could find. But just look at that. Look at that sheen. It is unbelievable. So, Oud Zen, the original. So here's the story, and this is where some people get confused. The original Oud Zen, Oud Zen, came out in 2017. He re-released Oud Zen in a fragrance called Oud Zen in 2021. Supposedly the same, same ingredients, not same materials, but the same, he used the exact same formula, if you will, just the more modern materials that he had to buy in 2021. And I have smelled both. I would have no problem having either, to be honest with you. It'd be cool to have this original one, but, oh my God. So, right off the bat, one thing that I have to mention is this is not a rose oud, okay? So, if you're someone that's absolutely sick of rose ouds, well, first of all, I said yesterday in my Ottoman Empire review, you've never smelled a rose oud like Ottoman Empire. So that's the very first thing. But, if you're just someone that's like, oh, I'm so over rose ouds, but I want a real oud fragrance that focuses on the note of oud itself, this would be a brilliant addition to your collection. And first of all, I have to say that the very first thing you notice when you spray the fragrance is just how multifaceted it is. The fragrance truly focuses on the oud itself, but there's many, many, many layers to this fragrance. And so imagine this is the image of the fragrance in my mind that you always have to go back to, because this is the heart and soul of Oud Zen. Oud Zen is a fragrance that I want you to imagine this smoldering aspect to it, okay? So I want you to imagine the smoldering embers in a fire. The fire's not out, okay? The embers are still hot, but you can tell that the fire is starting to go out, but if you blow on the embers, they burn red hot, okay? It's smoldering, and the embers still have this bright red glow to them. That is the image of Oud Zen. Smoldering, slowly burnt oud. And so it's very mellow. It's very relaxed for an oud fragrance. Immediately off the bat, okay? Immediately off the bat, there is this slight barnyard, okay, feel. Very slight, though. Very, very slight. It's there. You can pick it out. You almost have to look for it, okay? But it's there. Slightly animalic, but mostly you get this very mellow, relaxed, peaceful take on oud, to me. I've got a older dry down here. I've been wearing, like I said, I wore this to the office today. I was very careful with the sprays, though. I only went a couple sprays at the office, but now that I'm out of work, I'm like, let's spray this bad boy. And there's a slight chocolatey aspect to the oud as well, which we'll talk a little bit about. Similarities to another very famous Areej Le Dore creation. And if you know, well, let's talk about that similarity. So if you know the way that I mentioned how Inverno Russo almost feels like a Ottoman Empire type fragrance, but enhanced with some other things like osmanthus and peach blossom absolute, and the most important was real musk, the skin of the musk pod, right? You know how I said Inverno Russo feels like that Ottoman Empire base with other things added going in another direction. For me, this feels like the rough draft of one of Adam's most famous creations, which was this. Well, I guess you can't see what that is, but it's this. It's Russian oud. Oud Zen, to me, is sort of a rough draft of Russian oud. I mentioned that chocolatiness from the oud. And that literally smells like it's naturally coming from the oud itself. It doesn't feel like a true cacao note like you get in Russian oud. And Russian oud actually does have, that's the original note breakdown of Russian oud. And Russian oud does have this cacao extract that he used to make it even more chocolatey. And there's other things that he ended up using in there. But Russian oud has this very gourmand, outwardly gourmand chocolate cacao aspect. And he added natural deer musk derived from a gigantic musk pod, as he says. Here in Oud Zen, you can detect in the base, instead of the musk, and maybe there, I watched a review from Nikhil, Exotic Scents, and he thinks that there's musk in the base of Oud Zen. I don't pick up a musk accord. Maybe there's a little bit, and he didn't mention it in the note breakdown, but I don't get a musk. To me, this is really just focusing on, as he says, the true oud experience. And so in Oud Zen, you detect in the base, you detect lots of ambery notes, okay? And those ambery notes are basically things like myrrh, tolu balsam, labdanum, this sort of amber accord, I would say, that Adam became famous for. And he became famous for it in these. This is basically where it started. Oud Zen is where that lava-like amber accord that became so popular in Russian oud started. And so imagine this extreme ambery lava-like stickiness, this consistency of lava stickiness that always focuses on the oud, okay? The lava, somehow, the ambery aspect of it, remember, always keep that smoldering embers in the back of your mind. That is sort of the image of this. If Russian Adam did art pieces of, photographs like olfactive studios, or even Nishane includes like a postcard with a picture of what they think the scent sort of represents, to me, this would be smoldering embers, okay? So always keep that in mind when we're talking about the scent itself, because that smoldering lava or smoldering embers is the image of Oud Zen to me. And I want you to imagine those embers slowly going out. Or I want you to imagine the lava slowly moving down the volcano. So the key word in both of those images is slowly. The embers are going out, but it's slowly. It's over a long time. You're sitting by the fire with friends, family, and hours are passing by, and you are, very slowly watching those embers go out. And it won't take very much to kick them back going, because it was a fire that really raged for a while, right? That kind of thing. But now it's very slowly going out. The lava is very slowly running down the volcano. And the reason that I'm emphasizing slowly is because that's the way that the fragrance moves. That's the way that it moves on your skin. It is literally the speed and motion in which the perfume changes. It changes very slowly. Everything is over long time periods. This is a 18-hour fragrance, right? And so everything that's done, there's no huge transitions. It does change, but it's not like our half an hour it smells like this, 45 minutes an hour it smells like that. The transitions happen over very long periods of time, okay? And all I can think about is this very slowly moving lava or ember very slowly going out, but still flickering, hanging on to that flicker, right? Also, I wore this today in Texas on May 31st, and it was 90 degrees today, the high, very close to 90. And I did wear this to the office, like I said. And while one thing I noticed today that I didn't really pick up previously is there are these touches of gasoline accord, okay? So think Dior Fahrenheit, but in an oud that Russian Adam would make with real oud like this. But imagine these sort of gasoline, almost like you used charcoal and fire starter to maybe start that fire I mentioned with the embers earlier. Imagine you did that like 12 or 18 hours ago. And you can, now that the embers are starting to go out, you get this used gasoline note with the amber accord that Adam so brilliantly built and gets much acclaim, and as it should. That lava amber accord he built is brilliant. And what makes it so brilliant to me, the accord, and by the way, he said something on the live stream that I thought was very interesting about, creating the amber accord in Oud Zen and Russian Oud. He said that he wanted to create this because, he wanted to show people that you can make an oud fragrance palatable for the average person. Even real oud, it doesn't have to all be barnyard. So he built this amber accord as a way to try to sort of make it more digestible to the masses, which I thought was very interesting. But what really is so brilliant about this whole note listing to me, and like I said, it gets much acclaim. It's definitely deserved. But what makes it so brilliant is, to somebody who's a beginner, okay, someone who's new to the oud game, when you smell this, that amber accord makes it more digestible. It makes it easier to swallow, as I said, and that stickiness, that ambery, stickiness, just sort of covers up with a perfect bed of this ambery warmth, this raw animalic, dirty oud scent profile that some people just don't like, right? It offends some people. And what that amber accord does is it just sort of covers it up very gently, like gently putting your covers over your sleeping child or something, right? It just sort of ever so gently, almost like a loving father's or loving mother's touch, gently putting the blanket over the sleeping child with ever so much love. That's sort of the feeling of the way when I smell this, and I begin to continue to break it down. And obviously I don't own a full bottle, so just however much I get to wear here is a blessing, get to know it and that kind of thing. So I'm no expert on the scent or anything, but the more that I'm continuing to understand it, the more it really feels like he built that as a way, as a bridge, as like a, how would you say, like an olive branch to people that don't like oud, to say, come explore oud. And when you pay close attention and you sort of start peeling back the layers, right, you can still smell all of the multi-note components that make this one of my favorite oud perfumes of all time. So yes, there is a touch of barnyard oud. Like I said, Indian oud is listed here, but just a touch. And it's enough to add this prism of ouds, okay, waiting to burst forth from the lava. So I want you to imagine that that the lava has hardened. Have you ever seen like scientists walking around like when a volcano erupts, all the scientists go, right, they put on all the gear and they almost look like what has this chisel or this I don't know what you would call it, but imagine that they've got this sort of, the scientists are walking around with this chisel kind of thing, and they're like picking at the oud, and you can tell it's hard, or picking at the lava, and you can tell it's hard, and they leave or whatever, months go by, and then all of a sudden you see a picture where lava just flew, where it just rolled over the ground, and there's a flower pushing through, literally pushing through the lava, right? All of a sudden you see this flower, and it pushes through the lava and the resins. And that's what sort of the prism of ouds feel like underneath that blanket of amber. Okay, the prisms of oud, there's many different types of oud in here. It just feels like they are just pushing through that brilliant amber accord ever so slowly, but so smooth, expert smoothness. So the agar wood used here is, again, multifaceted. So there's a couple parts. There's wild, so he says rare, wild Sri Lankan agar wood oil, okay? Distilled by Russian Adam himself. He distilled this oil. He also used Papua New Guinea agar wood resin. And Papua New Guinea adds a very interesting scent profile. Apparently, it's citrusy, which it's very hard to pick up citruses in here because that ambery, oh, that sort of, you know, of course, ambery oud profile just overtakes everything. But as it continues to dry, I've got a, like I said, a 3-hour, 4-hour dry down here. As it continues to dry, you'll be able to pick out little bits and pieces here and there, and you're going to notice that Papau agarwood profile is green, earthy, vibrant, resinous. The oud all at once almost feels like you're looking into a prism that you thought you understood, only to realize it's actually like a kaleidoscope, okay? And the ouds are going in all different directions. And if you pay close attention, you can see that there is a green, citrusy, earthy aspect to the Papau oud. You can pick out the barnyard, fermented, animalic aspect of the Indian oud. There's all of these different facets to the ouds used here. And when you add in the animalic Indian oud with the green, earthy, vibrant, resinous Papau oud, it almost feels like those embers I mentioned earlier are almost starting to smoke again. You know, like they've reignited themselves and they start to smoke. And so imagine that scientist taking that chisel or pick, axe, whatever you want to call it, and chiseling the lava once it's hardened, and he pulls it back only to realize that even though the top part of the lava has hardened, underneath there is still that river of lava flowing. It's still warm. It's still burning underneath. And pulling back the top layer just reveals this smoke that was trapped, this incense-grade oud smoke that was trapped underneath that ambery black, hardened top of lava. And it's smoky, and it's a strange oud-like incense. Oh, and it's dark, and it's intense, but also being at the same time smooth and tame. So there's this dichotomy to the scent. There's contrast, and all great perfume has contrast. It's oudy and smoky while also having those citrusy green forest-like smells I mentioned earlier, with the hints of gasoline. So the hints of gasoline just add another dimension, which I never noticed before until today in the heat. Today in the heat, I got this brilliant gasoline accord. I was like, wow, that is fantastic. I mean, it blew me away. I was bringing the trash cans in because it was trash day, and I literally had to like stop. And the sun was still up. It was warmer. And I was just like sitting there in my driveway, just smelling my hand. Just unbelievable. And it just goes on and on like that for hours is what's so crazy about it. So you take all of that and you blend it with a vintage saffron attar. Similar, I think, to the saffron-like attar Adam used in Ottoman Empire. I don't know for sure, you know, I don't know if that's true or not, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of the saffron used there. And it adds this honeyed, like, hay aroma. Actually, I've done it. This is not a top 10 saffron. If you want to go check that out, I would highly encourage you to do that. And sometimes saffron can come across as slightly chemically smelling, but it gives this chemical pudding vibe that is very Middle Eastern. It mixes beautifully with the oud here. And so even though this is not a rose oud, there is a oud saffron combination that is very familiar smelling. And then finally, in traditional Russian Adam style, you mix all of that up with what? What do you mix it all up with? Animalics, of course. It's Russian Adam. And me and him share the same sort of disease, if you will. We always want more animalics, more oud, more smoke, more everything, more civet, more castoreum, more ambergris, more real musk. And so he's added civet and castoreum here. And I'm going to make a statement about Oud Zen that some may find outrageous, but after wearing it today and yesterday wearing Ottoman Empire, exactly. So Ottoman Empire and then Oud Zen, I'm going to say something that may, you know, some people might be like, what? But I think it's true. For me, anyways. For me, I'm going to make an outrageous statement and say, obviously, there's many Russian Adam creations on my never-ending to-buy list of fragrances that I want. I mentioned a couple I'm still hunting, like Malik Al Taif, Oud Luwak, Koh Noir, all of that stuff, right? But I think if you said, Ramsey, there's 2 bottles left and you can have one. One is Ottoman Empire, one is Oud Zen. I think I'm taking Oud Zen. Honestly, I think I'm taking Oud Zen. This just, the oud in this just really does it for me. I am becoming an oud head. There's just no way around it. I can't fight it. Like, it's true. And it's a rabbit hole that I know is very expensive to go down sometimes. But once you've smelled some of this, and at first it's funny because, and I've seen some people leave comments like, who in the world would want to smell like that? And that is the very first thing that I think anyone says when they first smell it. But the more you smell it, the more you start to understand, the more it almost like changes something in my brain, you know, like it just, yesterday Adam saying smelling, yesterday in the Ottoman Empire review, I said smelling pure rose oil makes you smile. Smelling these ouds makes me smile. It literally makes me feel happy inside. And then to top it all off, the animalic that takes control of this scent, and if you know me, you know exactly what I'm going to be excited about. It's the castoreum. Castoreum is my favorite animalic note because it usually adds this leathery profile to it, and I love leather. And here, it's done to perfection. It takes the lead animalic slot, if you will. And when you blend in that lava-like amber accord with the ouds and the saffron, and now you add this leathery castoreum animalic, you know, touch, it's heaven. It's just pure bliss, pure zen, if you will. Now, here is the question which I still have not been able to answer. Is Oud Zen a gourmand? Is it a gourmand? Because there's definitely that chocolate facet to it. There's no doubt about it. You can't get away from the chocolate facet. It's there. It may not be super prominent. It may be behind some of all of these other facets. This is a kaleidoscope oud, right? And you could argue, you could make the argument that this is a gourmand. Russian oud is a gourmand, I think, because it focuses on the chocolatey cacao note, obviously. But even though Oud Zen doesn't have that, it has the tolu balsam, it has the labdanum, it has the sweet myrrh, which adds this huge amount of warmth. The sweet myrrh is something I actually haven't talked about yet. And it's almost like that fire I was mentioning earlier. So imagine that the heat from the fire that I mentioned earlier so heated the ground around where you're camping, where you're sitting, that even though the fire is now out and the embers are smoldering, remember, that is the image of Oud Zen, you can still feel the heat, okay? So the heat sort of so heated the ground around you that even though the fire's out, it was such a hot fire that the ground around you still feels warm, even though the fire's out, if that makes sense. It's the only way I can describe the way that the myrrh feels like in here. Unbelievable amount of warmth in this fragrance. And the amber accord gives off gourmand aspects as well. So there's this beautiful burnt sugar-like accord that one of my favorite desserts, and I'm a sucker for sugar. So one of my favorite desserts is creme brulee. You ever had creme brulee done well, right? Proper creme brulee. And the top has that caramelized sugar that they take that blowtorch to. Okay? So they take that blowtorch to the creme brulee. And you know how it also turns hard on top. Similar to the lava example I gave earlier, right? So the creme brulee has that sort of burnt sugar on top, right? And that's sort of the caramelized aspect of the amber, of the gourmand amber facet. It also has this slight warmth of cognac smell. So imagine this cognac or you know, almost like barbecue sauce on ribs. You ever had like barbecue sauce on ribs that got cooked a bit too long and the barbecue sauce like bubbled up and sort of got hardened on the pan or the stove, right? The sugary barbecue sauce. That's the consistency or the feeling of this amber. And so one thing that's interesting, the Papau oud too, there's a rumor that in Papau they even will sometimes like dig up trees that fall into the river just naturally, not like you know, on purpose or anything like that, but old trees that have just naturally fallen over the years, they will find and dig up and use the agarwood, and it's been buried for years and years. So it gives off, that's part of the reason why it gives off that earthy smell. Sometimes it'll get buried, you know, rivers will flow over it. They'll dig it up underneath rivers or underneath the earth. Very interesting Papau oud. And so in my original Oud Zen review from 2021 that I did, where Russian Adam sent me some small little vials, but enough for me to test of his work. Because he said, hey, you never smelled my work. I want you to smell some of these. And watching it today, I almost like fell out of my chair. It struck me how many things I said then that I don't agree with now. So I talked about how one thing I do agree with, though, is how Zen-like the fragrance is. I know when he used the word Zen, he didn't mean it like, you know, Zen. He didn't mean like that kind of enlightenment Zen, like this peacefulness, but that's how it makes me feel, actually. It does feel like this very calming, meditative, okay, fragrance. But a year ago, I said that I would never describe oud as calming or meditative. I actually said that in my Oud Zen review. And now, it's funny because I can hardly go to bed without applying like a swipe of an oud, you know, someone gave me, or spraying one of, you know, an animalic barnyard oud. Barnyard before bed, was that the name of it? I think that's going to be the name of our band. Barnyard Before Bed. Hell of a band name. But yeah, now I can hardly go to bed, or I mean, it really does help you just like, you know, just like take a second. And remember what was the movie where they used to say woosah, woosah, right? There's a little bit of that here. And so it's just crazy how, you know, tastes change. And I said that Oud Zen wasn't a very complex fragrance. I said that in my 2021 review, which is insane. It is a different fragrance. 2021 and 2017 are, you know, he put them out as different named fragrances on purpose. But they're basically, to me, the very similar smell. But I said that it wasn't very complex. And I guess if you take just the note breakdown, there is some truth to that. But the ouds in here, to me, are amazingly complex. This is one of the most complex oud fragrances I've ever smelled. And I mentioned this tobacco-like vibe in my first review, which now that I think more about it, I think that's actually just coming from the saffron, giving off this dry, smoky, tobacco-like feel. You can imagine the people sitting around the campfire, maybe someone smoking, that kind of feel. And I also said that this is almost as good as Oud Maximus. And now I completely reverse. I think this is superior to Oud Maximus. So it's just crazy how, you know, taste change. Let me read you the blurb in closing, directly from the website. I think that's a good way to get an idea of the fragrance. I think I've done a very good job capturing the way the fragrance makes me feel. But here's directly from the Areej Le Dore website. Raw, wild, naked, the true oud experience. I agree with that. Top notes are rare, wild Sri Lankan agarwood, oil distilled by Russian Adam, Papau agarwood, resin, heart of Indian oud, and 20-year-old saffron attar. Base notes of Indian and Indonesian sandalwood, clean Indian vetiver. I didn't even talk about the vetiver. The first time I did the review also, I said you can't really pick out the vetiver, but into the dry down, and that's what makes it so tough, is you don't know whether you're smelling like the greenness, earthiness of the Papau oud, or whether you're smelling a little bit of that clean Indian vetiver. It doesn't smell like that earthy, it doesn't have that earthy sort of ruchas vetiver. It's clean. It's different. Tolu balsam, sweet myrrh, and traces of synthetic civet and castoreum. Man, the castoreum. Oh, fuck. Description. An intense yet gentle balsamic and silky smooth oud volcano. Agreed. Majestically smoking. Agreed. Slowly releasing the concoction of pure Sri Lankan and Indian ouds. Agree with slowly. 100%. In spectacular volcanic fashion, rare, untamed, royal oud has been pulled up from the base through the heart of this olfactory composition to ultimately reside at the top, giving one of the unmatchable Zen true experience that genuine oud creates, a royal aura that calms the nerves and brings peace, balance, and harmony to one's soul. Agreed. Swift, creamy waves of fragrant Indian and Indonesian sandalwood spiced up with hints of smooth, highly aged saffron, culminating to fulfill one's wildest olfactory desires. This scent will suit those mature, sophisticated persons who never fear challenges and who want to be covered in a truly mysterious, luxurious aroma. Each level of this aromatic poem has been carefully blended with the utmost care, respect, and love. Over a long period of time, through a process consisting of multiple stages, Oud Zen is limited to a number of 100 full 50 ml bottles. This limitation is a result of the rare ingredients being used and is the only solution to avoiding batch inconsistencies. So, I just have to say, I know we're only one day away from the final day of Areej Le Dore reviews, but I have greatly enjoyed Areej Week. If you guys would like to see this concept brought further, maybe we'll do like a Creed Week, Tom Ford Week, or whatever it may be in the future sometime, let me know. But the reason that I wanted to do Areej Le Dore Week is obviously I love the fragrances, and I want to have reviews on the fragrances out there. But I have so many. We could do Amouage. We could probably do Amouage month, to be honest with you. I have so many Amouages to discuss with you guys. But so let me know what you think of the idea of doing like one brand for one whole week dedicated to that brand. If you get bored of it, if that kind of thing. But this has been a pleasure. So tomorrow will actually be the last day. I'm not 100% sure which will be my final review for Areej. Well, not the final review, but the final review of Areej Le Dore Week. I'm thinking it might be Atlantic Ambergris. And even though I did a review of Atlantic Ambergris 2, I know it much better now that I've had a chance to wear number 1 and number 2. So yes, maybe Atlantic Ambergris number 1 will be the review, but maybe not. Maybe it'll be something else I've been sort of holding on to. I've got a couple special reviews for Areej that I still want to do. Even with Areej Week, even with doing one tomorrow, there will still be many Areej Le Dores I want to do full reviews on because they are deserving of it to me. There are very few houses left still, to this day, at this point in my journey, that so capture my attention as much as Areej Le Dore. I always have time for Russian Adam's work, and I cannot wait for the collaboration with Bortnikov and Phil Oud. Obviously, after buying the entire history of Oud collection, I wish maybe there was a little more time for my bank account to recover. I do wish I was on the free bottle train, to be honest with you, at moments like this. But no, I'm very excited to get to explore the new Feel Oud collection. I can't wait to see the bottles and how they feel in the hand and all that good stuff. So, thank you everyone for watching. If you have had the good fortune of smelling Oud Zen, do let me know in the comments. Either one, Oud Zen or from 2017 or Oud Zen from 2021. But anyways, appreciate everyone's support. You guys are absolutely the best. I've got the best subscribers in YouTube as far as I'm concerned. And so thank you everybody, and I'll see you guys tomorrow most likely. Cheers. Bye-bye.